All right, children. We are at the last video of third chapter, Mineral and Power Resources. This is the fourth video, and it speaks about non-conventional power resources. What is non-conventional? Anything that is not been in common use, or anything which is going to be offbeat kind of resource. Even a potato, for an example, if you can produce electricity out of it, will be a non-conventional source of energy. So now we are going to see on a wider scale from which we can actually have consistent and good abundant energy generated. A few examples of them, and most of them are renewable energy resources, like the solar panels, or the wind energy, or biogas plants, or nuclear power stations also. So let us get started. The need for non-conventional source of energy was felt when firewood is less and coal is very limited. Petrol is very valuable because there's no stock left almost. So we are exploring new ways of generating electricity. So in comparison, if we see what kind of advantage and disadvantage will each kind of energy possess. Let us start with biogas, which is very simple a setup, a small gas digester, and it will have all the waste, organic waste, like cow dung, or mostly the farm waste, like the wasted part of the crop, etc., put into it. And it is a very good setup for rural regions, or on farms, or even at your houses, where you have a lot of food wasted, or half parts of vegetables, etc. So that biogas can give us electricity, or heat, I'm sorry, heat. So we are speaking about the advantage as low cost. It is very easy to operate and generate heat, and it makes use of bio waste. The one that we were going to dump, it is rather put into this, and gives us good manure also, and heat also. It can be used as a fuel, burning fuel. And in disadvantage, it causes greenhouse effect, because a lot of methane is released when these things are digested. Okay. Now coming to something called geothermal energy. This is a rarer form. He very less locations would have uh, geography or location which already has a lot of heat inside it, and the water there will also be very hot. So those hot springs are actually those spots where this energy is seen and can be tapped. In the picture that you've seen, there is hot water spring at Thane. There is a place called Vajreshwari. There you have a lot of hot water springs. You have one in Rajapur in Konkan. You have other places like Manali, where there are hot water spots near the land itself. There is a uh, you know reservoir of water which is already hot. And as we discussed in class, that is because of presence of an element of sulfur. If it is present in that particular place, it will uh, generate more heat, and generally tends to have a hot water spring. Disadvantage is of geothermal is that it's very rare, right? It's located far away from cities. Sometimes it's not located at all. So very less amount of geothermal energy deposits exist in India. Also, the transport of that electricity is going to be very difficult, because um of the location and of the quantity. In advantage, it is eco-friendly, it is a clean source, and it is always available around the clock. Now let us discuss about one more clean source of energy, which is tidal energy. As we saw videos about wind and tidal energy in the class, both of these are actually renewable natural sources. Tidal is near the ocean, and wind is almost near a mountain top or uh, near the beach or any place where there is abundant wind. So both of these have similar advantages. They are non-polluting, they're safe and clean, they have low cost production of electricity once it is invested. So they can be long-term solutions to electricity generation. In tidal energy, there is a disadvantage that it may destroy the aquatic wildlife. The fish or breeds that have been staying in that region do get displaced. And it also, tidal energy is difficult to harness or use because that particular height which is to be maintained or how it is to be generated requires a lot of finesse. In disadvantages of wind energy, we have noise pollution, we have windmills which are very costly to set up. Um, um, Also, there is a lot of disturbance in the radio and TV reception if the windmills are too tall. And it is harmful to birds because they may mistake it for something else and meet with accidents. So these are the disadvantages of wind energy and tidal energy. Coming to a well-known and now very well used source, I must say, the solar energy which is received from sun, right? The panels that we set up. So it is almost an inexhaustible source of energy. It is non-polluting, and nowadays there is so much of technological advancement that we could see that even in rainy season or other areas, it is trying to follow the sun throughout the day. The sunflower-like design, it will move or chart the path of the sun, and then it will generate almost endless amount of energy for you. In disadvantages, solar energy setup might be expensive for few. So collectively, if you are setting it up for a community, etc., it is better. Then it might be diffused a source sometimes in winters. Also, coming to the last and most important source of non-conventional energy, which is nuclear energy. So this uses uranium and the particles which are bombarded, the uranium particles which are bombarded with helium atoms, then leads to fission, and then it will emit a lot of energy within the nucleus of that uranium atom, and this is absolutely great to tap on because this will give us a lot of energy within low cost. Compared to 1 ton of coal, 7 grams of nuclear uranium could give us the same amount of energy. However, if you go to sea, you all know that radioactivity has been hazardous. It is dangerous for humans. Over a period of time also, if you get exposed to it, it is going to be difficult. So radioactive waste is the prime concern. Second is it could be weaponized, so it is all the more hazardous. And therefore, in India, as we have seen, Nuclear Power Corporation Limited, okay, NPCL, is the only authentic government agency which generates nuclear energy, and private players are not allowed to import uranium or put it to use for generating electricity. So that is the disadvantage. Also, it is very, very expensive compared to any other form of non-conventional energy. Now we are talking about the cost of investment for the renewable or non-conventional sources. We are actually discussing how it is difficult rather than conventional sources. So let us see the point of distinction between conventional sources and non-conventional sources. So by definition, those sources which have been in use for a long time and non-conventional have not been in common use. Stock of the resource is exhaustible for conventional and inexhaustible for non-conventional. Pollution level is very high for conventional source and non-polluting for non-conventional source of energy. In examples, we have firewood and coal for conventional sources, and non-conventional we have just seen them: nuclear, solar, wind, tidal, and many others. So the cost of investment, if we are willing to overlook non-conventional sources of energy, is the only way humanity can continue to generate the amount of energy that we're using each day. That is so much of change in lifestyle that we begin our day with electricity and end it with electricity, right? So using the non-conventional and renewable resources is the only way forward. Now, this is a small activity that is mentioned in your textbook, which is quite interesting. If you go to check in your own house, okay, for a particular day or week, if you go to keep a record of what all are you using for how much number of hours, etc., then you will come to know whether we are actually doing enough to save that power source or not. So this is a small energy audit. We have so many electrical appliances like tube light, like bulbs, like fans or exhaust fans, TVs, computers, ACs. So we have to just check how many are existing in the house, how many hours are we operating it, then actually how many hours should we need them or use them. Have you overshot that limit? Kind of just compare with your own limit. It's not that there's a standard set, you can just mention. And is it switched on even when not in use? The most important part. So begin with a personal habit. Please switch off appliances and your energy audit will be definitely